Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horrific Chats. In this segment, we speak to some of our contributing artists to discuss their creative processes, inspirations, and thoughts on the horror genre in general. Tonight, we're joined by Eugene McLean, an author and regular guest on the show. Hi, Eugene, and how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing fine.
Oh,
It's been a good day.
here, take them when you get them. That's always the best.
That's it.
Because you'll have 100 people saying, life's awful. And they don't know that you're only one moment away from it not being anymore, so you may as well enjoy it.
Exactly. At any point in time, you're gone.
Yep. I think I've talked to loads of people now in the horror genre over time, and I think that's one thing we all appreciate. I think maybe it's the genre, but you're just one serial killer or demon away from being snuffed out of existence or tormented in an alternative dimension. So enjoy the time here and now while you have it. And I think that's why, although we love the dark stuff, we tend to be a jolly lot.
Yeah. Have fun, man. Go for it.
There's something about diving into the darkness just makes you go, do you know what? I'm all right. I'm quite liking it in life. What you're complaining about isn't really the end of the world. I've written about or I've read about or I've watched the end of the world 100 times. It doesn't look like fun. This is all right.
Yep. This is the best you can do right where you're at. Just do
it. You've been quite a regular contributor to the show. You came aboard a few months ago, and quite a few stories in which we're eternally grateful for. It's always great to have people get involved. When was it you decided? When did you decide that writing, that was the thing for you? Has it always been a thing, or did you kind of grow into it?
Well, I grew up in probably one of the best places on earth to write about Southern Gothic horror. Mm-hmm. That little corner of East Texas, right there on the border between Texas and Louisiana, right there on the Sabine River. It is a melting pot of all kinds of cultures, going back to Native American culture, going back to Spanish, French, German, Czech, and American English, African American. And each one of those cultures brings about their own stories, legends, myths, and they get blended together. And I remember sitting on my grandfather, who was from Germany, and he would relate all the old world stories and about the Lorelei and about the river sprites and things like that. And that just fascinated me. Mm-hmm. And then when I got a little older, in the 50s and 60s, there was a late night television show coming out of Houston. It started at like 10:30 at night on Saturday nights. And it was titled Weird. Then you had your late weird. Then you had your late weird, which carried over into like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And they presented all the old Universal monsters, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, saw all those old movies. And then, of course, being the 50s and 60s, you had your B movie type of science fiction, horror kind of thing. And then I just said, well, I started writing. I started writing my own stories. I was probably about 9 or 10. And to this day, I still have back here in my little file cabinet, or rather right over here, my little file cabinet.
I do that as well. See the camera? In fact, I was doing an unboxing video earlier. I'm like putting it over here. No, it's here. It's here.
It's somewhere in here.
Every time.
But I still have those little notes and stories that I wrote. But then, always wanted to be a writer. But then life got in the way. And I actually didn't start writing anything until recently, relatively recently. It was 2004 when I started actually sitting down and saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. have you always been a creative person, or is just the inspiration of the area and the horror stories? Like for us, it was Channel 4. That's where we got all Universal Monsters. It was Channel 4 on a Saturday night. We got all the weird and
Yeah.
wonderful. Everything else was just bland and mainstream. And I think there's a kind of pull towards horror. You know, you want something else. You see soap operas on during the day. You see the news. You see those sort of bland TV shows. You're like, nah, it's rinse and repeat. But for some reason, getting into horror just seems to be a bit refreshing. And you can still watch, like, we watched Nosferatu, reviewed it recently, 100 years. And that movie still stands up. And even some of the stuff, you're like, how did they do that? Like the boat scene with Nosferatu, crossing. Like, how the hell did they pull that off? That looks amazing. And
It is.
You see millions putting shows now and they look crap.
That is my main gripe about the crap that's coming out on television, on streaming. I mean, I get much into like the first few scenes of some of these shows that are coming out now, and I feel like I'm losing brain cells. So I just turn it off and move on. And then you have your shows and your films that start out, or your series that start out really good. I mean, slam bang, you look forward to the next season.
Mm.
And as each one goes on and on and on, it's like, where did we lose this situation? It's like on Stranger Things.
Oh God, that was loved the first season. It was fresh, it was new.
Yeah.
Had me riveted. Loved the first season. Season 2, I'm like, what the hell is this? What's going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
Season 3, I'm just like, what?
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't going to go back for season 4. I wasn't, but I'm a sucker for Robert Englund.
Yeah.
I'm not shallow when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street. Was I know it's cheesy as hell, but it's my love.
Yeah.
Of horror. It's my favorite franchise. Love it.
Yeah.
And just because Robert Englund was going to be in it, I'm like, okay, you bastard.
He's an excellent actor. And that comes through his characters,
And actually, he's somebody that just enjoys what he does.
Yeah.
And thankfully, and I'm afraid to follow people, especially celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
I went to go and I'm afraid to click the button. I've ended up following him on Twitter. I'm like, please don't be a dick. Please don't be a dick. Oh, you're okay. You're actually genuine.
Yeah.
There's only 2 celebrities I follow, and that's Robert Englund and Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer, yes.
Who are actually like only genuine people, because the rest of them are shitbags, and they really put you off wanting to like partake in their art.
Yes.
And you see a wee bit in the writing world as well.
Yes, you do.
Stephen King just needs to calm himself down and pet his puppies, and just stay off social media. He just needs to calm himself down. And there's loads of authors as well that try to be very pretentious. Do you ever see that with guys?
Yes.
Like, I'm super big brain person, and you're a peasant.
Yeah.
And you're like, mate, you're not selling me.
Yeah, that's what happens. See, but I like to think that it's not all their fault. With actors and actresses and screenwriters and things like that, you have the whole Hollywood thing going on,
Oh God.
and it's like the main drive is to make money, and it's not to produce original, outside the box thinking material. It's all
I've compared it to the fast food restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same burgers, fries. They paint the little box and they give you a different toy, but it's the same every time. It's the same stuff, no change. Because now directors are just becoming shift supervisors.
Bingo. I like that analogy. That's great. Yes,
it's quite sad as well. Part of the reason for doing this podcast and for talking to people is not just to get your names out there, but to show people that there's an alternative. There's still thinkers, there's still creators out there. There's still people with a pulse that have that energy. Unfortunately, it's so bloody hard to get any sort of traction, especially as an individual. In fact, one of the things I was going to ask you is how you've managed to navigate sort of building an online presence, because while it's so easy on one respect to create yourself, to create the mechanisms of the pages, etc., building an actual online presence and getting a following is very difficult. How have you managed to sort of go through it, or is that a thing that you try to do?
Yeah. With a lot of writers, I see that they put a lot of extraneous BS into their works just so they can fill up a imaginary word count. You know, if Stephen King, for instance, would just stick to telling the story instead of going off on these tangents just so he can put out a book with 600,000 words in it, that's the publishers doing that. You know, that's the publishers doing that. The publishers are saying, this is what sells, this is what you'll do. And that's why I'm an independent. That's why I like independent creatives, because they allow themselves to think outside the box, to bring in stories that are, you know, like fresh and original. And what I do is mainly I put my things out there, my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I go into my father, just to give you a little background, speaking of going off on tangents,
here,
my father
we
was.
love, if you've watched this show, if anybody's been in this show, we love tangents. we want to get a wee background thing, goes tangent time, and just have a flash in the background while we'll go off of one, because we never stick to the story. But that's what talking's about. People forget that.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry, your father.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, anyway, my father was executive in charge of a newspaper advertising department. And so I learned at his knee at a very young age all about marketing. Granted, I tried to apply those theories from the 50s and 60s and 70s to modern times. There's a difference between pre-internet and post-internet.
Mm-hmm.
Post-internet, it's a completely different animal. Post-internet marketing. For instance, on one of my books, the Lycaon Legacy,
mm-hmm.
I actually hired a firm out of my own pocket. I actually hired a firm to right out of Florida to make a teaser video about the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent mega bucks, and what I've seen them do for other people looked really good. And what they came up with was pretty original, but they used a lot of images, and the voice that they had on there just sounded awful. So that was my one adventure there into internet marketing. But mainly what I see is podcasts like this one are a good resource. I go to festivals,
Mm-hmm.
writing festivals, film festivals. I have a lot of fans, you know, right here, and they love my work. They want to be a part of my world, and the way I meet them is by going to these book signings, and once a year, right in this area, they have a writers conference. Mm-hmm. Big thing. They get writers from all over the world. The best thing you can do is go to one of those and interact with other writers, listen to their speeches and just schmooze with those people. And a lot of publishers go to those things too. A lot of publishers go to them. And, but I really, other than the podcast, I really don't use the internet very much. My Facebook page, it's just basically there to keep my friends, family, and my fans to, up to date on what's going on and to provide a little bit of entertainment, digging things out from the back of my head. But that's about
I love that
all
post you made. I saw it earlier on that it takes 364 of your enemies to spill enough blood to make a longsword. And I'm like, yes, that's my sort of humor.
Well, actually, I'm a scientist. I work in the medical field as a laboratory scientist. And I actually saw that and I said, wait a minute, that would not, in my mind, I know how much blood and how much iron is in the blood. So I did my calculations and stuff like that. And yes, that number would make a short, maybe 6-inch, 7-inch long dagger. But it would not make a long sword. If you wanted to make a long sword, you'd have to have upwards of 900, 1,000 people.
I guessed right. I commented. I got it right. Yay.
Yep.
But I was more of a, what happens if you spill a drop? You know what I mean? Better make 1,000 to be sure.
Well, like in my story, I'm drawing a blank here. A town called Draco.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah. In there, you have what's called blood iron. And the one of the main protagonists made a special arrowhead that would be used to kill the demons from the blood of her husband and the men that died with him fighting against these demons and these witches. And of all the men that lost their blood in that thing, she was only able to make a arrow tip, just a very tip end, And so I do my research. That's another thing. I ad nauseum do my research, and I use what I've been trained to do to make it real.
Yeah, because even though it's fantasy, and that's where a lot of I think modern creators, especially in film, and you've got to experience that too, but I think because something's in fantasy, that by not basing it in reality, that helps it, but it actually has the opposite effect, because you need something to ground you.
Yes, you do.
You need something to be, this is our world, and then the external threat is from outside that you're going to lose your world, and that's basically the premise of horror in general. Should it be
exactly
your very existence or just your life? It doesn't matter. You need to have something to hold on to before you go on the ride, or else you fall off. And it seems to be people have forgotten that. Is it due to lack of storytelling? The fact that people don't read anymore? Everyone goes by just a title. They don't even read articles. They'll go by the title and instantly give your opinions on it. Or they don't read books. One of the purposes is to try and get people reading again, because it's a lost art. And
it
people
is.
Don't read, they don't think. Don't think, they don't create. And any society, it's the it's the creatives, it's the songs, it's the stories, the tales. That's what gives us a bit more than just being worker ants or worker bees.
Exactly.
We need more as humans
than
just being drones.
We do. But the problem is, and I hate to sound like an old fogey or whatever, what did my son call me one time? Okay, boomer. I'm a baby boomer. Okay.
All right.
But it seems like kids these days, young people, let me put it that way, they don't want to think. One of the biggest arguments I had with an editor was, one, I had to write it on a write everything on a 12-year-old's mental level. And I said, what? A 12-year-old, one thing, is not going to be reading the kind of stories I put out, or at least they shouldn't, you know. And the other thing was, I remember she sent me a stack of papers, and it was all the trigger warnings that I could put into. Yes. And like I say, like I told her, I said, if you have triggers, you shouldn't be reading horror, you know, because there's murder, there's rape, there's incest, there's all kinds. That's what makes it horrifying.
If you can conceive it, it's going into there. We've had this debate in this channel before about trigger warnings for or against. Some people are for them because they feel like they should warn people about it. You know, if they're going too far on one side. I don't believe in them myself. I don't think they help. You know what I mean? If you're reading horror, you should know what you're in for.
Yes.
Now, you can be warned off. I equated it to a swimming pool. You've got the baby pool, you've got the shallow end, you've got the deep end, you've got the diving board. Now, maybe horror should be categorized like that in general.
Yeah.
But then again, like, I hate it as well. People use categories and go, super extreme horror. And it's the most blandest crap you ever read in your life. You're like, what?
It is. Yes.
It's false advertising. You know what I mean? You should trade description decks. You should pull that person to court. What do you mean this is extreme? Bloody hell. God. You know what I mean? And people turn it the other side. But what is it? What is it about today's society? And there's also a hatred for the elder generation. Like, I always grew up and I loved hearing stories from my granny and my granda and even my granny's friends. And that, you know, sit down, they tell the story of their past. And it wasn't all about, everyone has this notion of, oh, I had life so hard. No, they just talked about their families or things they had, like the big Agus oves and all that's what they cooked on. And, you know, it was never told with victimhood. It was always told with the fondness of their growing up and their families. And it was always fascinating to hear.
Yes.
But today there seems to be an absolute hatred. And I think I can use that word correctly, because people absolutely, the younger ones absolutely despise anybody more than 10 years older than them. Like, it's like they're absolutely disgusted that we exist. And
yes. Yeah.
It's very strange because
I know we're making
very lonely.
We're making generalities. We're making generalities, but in general, you speak the truth. Yes.
And it's quite sad, you know.
It is.
I always enjoyed talking to people older than me. That's where when you're young, you look for wisdom. But like you said, people don't want to think anymore. They don't want to find wisdom or inspiration. No. And I have a concern. Like, it might seem like we're just doing a dopey podcast and we tell stories and stuff, but there's something deeper in storytelling. It's something that glues us together. And it's something that can bring the old and the young together, rich and the poor. You know, stories always aspiring either for a better place or the fear of the dark, you know what I mean? Oh, and Dale's in the chat. Hiya, Dale.
Hey, Dale. How's my favorite Kiwi doing?
No, she's fantastic, and she's always
wonderful.
She's become the backbone of this channel. But yeah, it's sad, and I don't know how I would turn it around. One of the questions I always ask is, how do we get people reading again? How do we turn this around without it being a battle? Because the only way war goes is for someone to be defeated, destroyed, and the winners of the war, of any war throughout history, always have to pick up the pieces. The victors always end up becoming the losers.
Yeah.
Because they're the disgruntled population. You're always having to build that country back up or side, you know what I mean? War's not a simple thing, but this war isn't good. It's the young people who are going to lose out.
It is. And
but how do we bring it around again?
The thing I try to do in my stories is I try to relate there are certain aspects of people's lives that are just, oh, you're welcome, Dale. It's just so, they're common. Now, my history is I'm a survivor of abuse. And I put into my stories that idea of, yes, you can survive. You can survive and you can thrive. And a lot of the creators, the creatives that I meet through this field, survivors are some of the most creative people on earth, because we have to be. We have to be able to create other realities, just mentally and physically sometimes survive.
So it's a survival technique.
It's a survival technique. And I get out a lot of my anger management issues and things like that through my writing. And I think, I hate to say that it's actually a niche readership, but a lot of my readers relate to that, unfortunately. And it's like you were saying earlier, or we were saying earlier, you know, we'd sit down and we'd listen at family gatherings. I'd just sat there and just listen to the stories, you know, that people would tell. And people don't do that anymore. People don't do that anymore. They don't get together. The kids have their own lives. The adults have their own lives. And
it happens earlier and earlier.
It does. It really and truly does. And kids are, I'm going back to my scientific roots now. Kids, I don't know what it is, if it's the pollution, if it's the weather, if it's climate change, what it is. But kids are maturing both physically and mentally a lot faster than they used to.
Would you say that?
Yes.
I would say
yes.
They tend to be more infantilized.
Well,
I'm finding myself working with young ones, and they don't have a work ethic. They don't have the grasp of teamwork. Yeah. They don't have the concept of you need to put something in to get it out. I would actually disagree with that, because especially the worst ones are the 30 to 35 bracket. They seem to be like bloody teenagers.
Yeah.
They're not adults at all.
No. But they're physical. They're physically, you know, those hormones racing around in a 12-year-old that used to only race around in an 18-year-old back when I was coming up.
Oh, so you're saying physical maturity is outpacing mental maturity, because it takes until you're 25.
Exactly.
Right. Because it takes until you're 25 for your brain to fully develop and grow.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there's something out of whack, that
there is.
They're physically growing faster, but they're not maturing, because, like I said, young people today that squeak and grunt at each other, they can barely you can barely have a conversation with one.
No.
And it's frustrating. And that's why my whole question is, how do we turn this around? Because we'll be gone. We'll be in our graves, rotting away. But they're going to be left.
Yeah.
And there's something seriously going to be missing from the world.
There is.
If they don't, because you're talking about Hollywood earlier on, it's just repurpose, repackage. There's nothing new being created. So nobody's being challenged or inspired. And that's a death, you know what I mean? That's the death nails of civilization. Apart from horror, I read fantasy, and one of my favorite authors, Raymond D. Feist. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Say again?
Are you familiar with Raymond D. Feist?
Yes.
Right. The Rift War Saga. The Rift War Saga.
Right.
So when Pug went to talk to the Serani, which are basically, it was a template of the Japanese template used on another world, but he made the observation that, yes, you keep singing the old songs, but you're not making new ones. That's the death of any civilization.
That's it.
And that's something that always stuck in my mind reading that at a younger age.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening now with us? Are the old stories, the old songs just being repurposed and nobody's mentally stretching themselves to create new ones? Or the ones that aren't getting a voice or aren't getting heard?
Yes, I agree with you there 100%. The people that really are the thinkers, the people that really don't just open up their skulls and pour in information. They actually think about what they're reading or what they're seeing, is becoming fewer and fewer. And I don't know where we can do something like that. But one area that I'm looking into going towards is that kids these days they're on their devices.
Mm-hmm.
They're not cracking open a book. They're not.
No.
And so in order to extend that influence to them, you really have to go where they're at. And that's why I've gotten with some people, some Australian friends of mine. We're working on getting a short film put out based on one of my short stories, The Crematorium Attendant.
Crematorium Attendant's Assistant?
Yeah. Yep. The Crematorium Attendant.
Still my bloody questions. Jump in there before I get a chance to ask. I was going to do the whole side. Just jump right in there. This is why I don't stick to my notes, because yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because obviously I had a look at the trailer, very intrigued.
Yeah. And well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, we've been talking for half an hour. This would be too much for a young person. A young person now can barely handle a minute's worth of information. And you see the content is getting shorter and short form, that a minute's getting too long now for attention span. 30 seconds is getting too long for attention span. 50, you know what I mean? What's it going to be? Flashes of light? You know, is that...
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Or what they do is they just have implants that plug in and download the information into their brain, and then that's it. You know, they don't have to spend a whole lot of time watching or thinking or anything else. Yeah. That's really where a lot of modern day storytellers are trying to get their stories out there, but they don't utilize the mediums that our readership. We're not on the same level with them. They're light years ahead of us. And so what we have
to get folks in this show or to participate. See me trying to get authors to participate. It's like getting blood from a stone. And every time, what gets me is every time one of you guys turn up, you're brilliant. I'm gonna have a good time. Everyone enjoys themselves, and there's no harm. But for some reason, there's just mental blockage about getting involved. Dale's made an interesting. Dale's made an interesting point. Read to your children every night before they go to bed. I had Justine on last week. Justine Hammerstad. She's 7 kids, and in fact, one of her daughters actually helped her form the story that she submitted to our podcast. Like right in the very beginning. So she's been actively involved, reading to her kids, getting them involved and taking the stories. Now they've got older, none of them read. Yeah. None of them have any sort of interest. So there's somebody actively trying to, be proactive in the beginning, but the kids are just like, nah, no interest.
I can see that in my wife and I raised our nephew from a young age, and that was one thing that she insisted on, was she would read to him, and then they would discuss what they had just read, and he's now trying to do that to his children. You know, he that's where I 100% agree. Nobody sits down and reads to their children anymore. And like when I was coming up, one of the things that we did, or one of the things that happened, was that we would get, when I was in elementary school, that we got these weekly readers. It was a little papery, pulp paper magazine. And that was one way we got to learn basically how to read, because once a quarter, school quarter, they would sell books, and they would sell the Frankenstein, Dracula by, you know, I mean, everybody just, you know, and all the classics, you know, and that isn't happening anymore. That is not happening anymore. Kids are not even being...
Sadly, libraries are on their way out, and unfortunately they've become like, in the UK anyway, they've almost become hangout places for homeless people. Which is, yes, it's a community function, I get it, but at the same time, the people in the libraries aren't interested in reading.
No, they're too busy.
It's sad. I loved the library growing up. In fact, growing up where I grew up, the library was my escape, because all sorts of mad, crazy stuff going on around my neighborhood. So the library was my way to escape.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for the library, and opened on a Thursday evening, and if it wasn't for the Thursday evenings, getting that week, you know, going, and I started off with Asterix and Obelix and Tintin books, comics, you know, they were hardback, Hergé, they're French, but translated in English, you know, they're only about that thick, but that got me started. Then you, like, being in the shallow pool, they were on the wee section in front, then you progressed in the other books, and it was just the world open. But you try and get a young person, and not even kids, you know, I know we're talking a lot about kids, but I'm talking people in their 30s have this aversion. So it's actually, it's not even as young as kids, it's adults, you know what I mean? Supposedly fully fledged adults are no interest in reading. Everything has to be catchy clickbait title, the bare minimum, and it's really frustrating, and it's sad at the same time. And what I always try to challenge people is to let's find a way to encourage people. There's no point fighting and battling with people over trivial things. That doesn't get you anywhere. You know what I mean? Better honey than vinegar, sort of thing, to catch a fly.
Right.
And there's this, how do you break through this weird antagonistic culture that just everything has to be a battle, everything has to be one side or the other, like everything has to be black and white. It's no nuance, no thought process, and that's where storytelling, I think, breaks down the walls of that. You know, when people stop reading stories, when they stop creating stories, that's when we start devolving, and we're seeing it right in front of us.
Right. It's very frustrating, and like, for instance, going back, we had the discussion about the triggers, but now my book, The Journal of Edwin Hale, is based for the most part back in the 1950s, early 1950s, and I did consent to put in a warning telling people that there's a lot of phraseology, a lot of things that might be insulting to modern day audiences, you know, and like that were back in those days, back in the 50s, people would throw out the N-word, you know, not think about it. But nowadays,
I'm rereading Lovecraft again.
Yeah.
And because everyone's, you know what I mean, everyone started this flag waving and getting the burning torches and pitchforks out. And I'm like, he used the language of the day. First of all, it's not him writing for. He's writing as each of the characters, and each character is slightly different. I think also people can't tell the difference between first-person account fiction and third-person account fiction. So when they read a first-person account fiction, that's the character, not him.
Yeah.
Using the language of the day. And how the hell do you learn from the past? Yeah, we know it's unacceptable, but you have to understand what people thought. You have to understand how we've progressed.
Yes.
To see
how we've gone. Yeah.
Things are bad now, but we could be living and work. You know what I mean? We could still be going to workhouses like Victorian England. You know what I mean? We could be in workhouses from 5-6 years of age, having appendages chopped off. You know, just as daily course, and if you die, you die, and the flipping cholera coming through and wiping out every year. You know what I mean? We could be living in those times.
Yeah.
So, but to have to, if you destroy all the stories, how do you know what it was thought?
Well, that's another thing I try to do is I basically try to hold with my stories. I try to hold up a funhouse mirror to society, you know, like Poe did, like LaFano did, like Charles Dickens did, you know, the stories they wrote, even Bram Stoker with Dracula, you know, they held up a mirror to society and used the monster lurking in the dark.
He was another one.
Yes. That's what I try to do. That's what I try to do. I mean, like Edwin Hale. Basically, I am Edwin Hale. Now, I didn't commit patricide, and I didn't have a supernatural girlfriend, but the abuse that he experienced comes from inside me, you know. And what I try to do is say, yes, this sucks, but there's always hope. And my stories I try to always end my stories on an upbeat note that love can conquer all, for instance, you know, that kind of mentality. But when you have, I don't want to get political. I don't think
please. Everything is bloody political at the moment, and it's so bloody
exactly. And that's the whole problem. We have governors in this country that are going around and supporting books being removed from libraries. You know, basically it's the same book burning mentality that the Nazis did in Germany. And that just, where have we gone wrong? And that is, you know, a direct result of society, as we talked about, not learning from the past, not learning from their history, not reading or even thinking about. They only think about what is right there in front of them. And it's sad. It really is.
That's why I laugh when you said kids are maturing. I'm like, no, the bloody aren't. Even friggin' adults aren't. They're becoming like brats on the playground.
I'm talking about, like, we had a kid come into the emergency room. I mean, I thought he was an adult. I thought he was like 18, 19 years old. He went from one end of the gurney to the other. He had a 5 o'clock shadow. He was 12 years old. And I'm like, no way, you know. But that's the whole thing. Their bodies are maturing faster than their brains. And their ability to comprehend, and that's what's really sad, I think. And I don't know, Colin. I just don't know what the answer is. Like I say, we just have to keep plugging it away and doing the best we can, and just try to, you know, make a difference wherever we can.
Yeah, and just talking about it. Not giving up, even just having this conversation.
Yeah.
once it goes out there, it goes out there.
Yeah.
It's crap. Look, people don't even cook anymore. I have like people I work with and all that don't even bring a packed lunch. Like the idea of making a sandwich and like bringing in a packed lunch is dark voodoo magic to the society today. Or throwing something in the oven. Never mind the demon device of the stovetop. I mean that's even no, I mean that's witchery and witchcraft. That throwing stuff into a pan. That's no. It's all processed, ready made. They don't even go out now. click of the phone, ordered in. I refuse to. This is my old foginess. If I'm going to go and get fat, I'm going to at least walk the 200 yards to the place and pick up my fat food and walk back, because at least I've somehow justified it. And then I make sure I'm bloody hungry before I do, and I'm not prepared to make it. You know what I mean? I'm making sure I'm committed to that journey. If you start ordering in and people are just like, oh, order in, no effort, and it's all mush. But we've noticed this from the 80s. This isn't a new phenomenon. This has been a long-term thing. We've seen it from the 80s. Just people are not learning the basic skills.
No, they're not. Now I've had some health issues, with my heart and all that kind of stuff. And so arthritis, everything. So I've had to make choices that a few years ago I wouldn't have made. Mm-hmm. And one of them is eating out all the time, but my job, sometimes that's the only way I'm going to get nutrition. But now that I have these health issues, I'm trying to healthy up my life. I'm taking my own lunch. I fix it the night before and I take it, I make sure it's healthy, going with the whole, it's terrible getting old, Colin. I mean, it's like the only sweet I have nowadays.
You're talking to me like I'm not there, dude. You're preaching to the converted, mate. I've creaked some bumps and things that didn't even realize body parts are sore. Didn't even realize I had body parts. You're like, what the hell? I used to run 5-6 miles a day, minimum.
But maybe that's what it's going to take, is something traumatic that in either society or whatever that forces people are not going to do anything like that, unless they're forced to. And my health issues forced me to, be more healthy, eat more healthy, do my own food. When I cook now, I cook for a week, and then that's what I do.
Just portioned out.
Portion it out over the week, right? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's what I think is. It's going to take a really wake up, smell the coffee kind of moment for all of us, and and that's what, unfortunately, that's a way that most humans respond, is that they respond to trauma better than they respond to attention.
Do you think, just to bring it back to the horror genre, do you think us that appreciate horror have a bit more of an insight into this because we look into that place? We look into that, world-ending event or the demon coming from the other dimension to rip our souls apart, or we're going to be at the end of a knife of, the serial killer or a monster.
Right.
Because we look there and we embrace that, do you think that gives us more of an appreciation for what's going on?
Exactly.
And do the younger people appreciate horror the way we do, or is it all just been reduced to memes like you see the Freddy, the Jason, the Michael memes posted all the time, but you think a lot of these people barely watch any of these movies or actually know what they're about?
No. and I think you've hit the nail on the head, is that people have become so inured, I guess, to horror. Every night on, they watch the news, they see, horrific acts, it's and every day in my ER, the monster in the closet can't hold a candle to the monsters that abuse kids, or the bloody mess that comes in after an accident, or the real world and human beings are extraordinarily vicious in their and they just, I think that's the desensitization is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
People have just become so desensitized to the horrific, and like we came from a different generation. We had different experiences and things like that, but like I say, I still think there's some commonality in there, amongst people that, amongst thinking people anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that we can touch on, that we can say, oh, hey, yeah, that's kind of like me, and like the discussions I have, it's like, all right, when I was growing up, we used to have nuclear attack drills where we, the sirens would go off and we'd duck under our desks at school or whatever, that was drilled into our, Cold War brains. And the horror of an actual nuclear atomic attack was right there at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We saw those images coming up as kids.
Oh yeah, that was part of it, and
so
prevalent.
We made that determination that horror will never happen again. But the people nowadays, since the 80s, are far removed from that, any kind of that kind of imagery.
It's funny because my school was right next to a missile factory and like the main headquarters police station. So every time the RAD tried to blow it up, we got evacuated out to the back of the school, told to stay away from the windows. Every time there was a car bomb, it was like, right, everyone away from the windows.
Oh my goodness.
This might be it. You're kind of like, oh, here we go again.
Here we go again. Exactly. And so, yeah, we relate. We come from the same thing. But, and I think that, it's just a constant drumbeat of horrific acts committed by people that are just dumbing. There is a dumbing down of society. I hate to say
without a doubt. Everything's down to one sentence. Everything's down to grunts and clicks and whistles, and people can't even civilly discourse with each other. And we could have a really in-depth conversation about certain topics, and I can guarantee you, probably 50% of stuff we'll not agree on.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can't sit here civilly and talk to each other like human beings?
Exactly.
And people can't seem to do that now, and it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah. You have to be, it's black and white. You're one side or the other. There's no room in the middle.
Calm down.
But, and this is where your podcast and all that you're doing, and it is really important because it does bring together this group of people who do have those dreams, who do have those ideas about writing, and they have these stories in them that just ache to get out. And I mean, we're a minority. I mean, it's something that is, I think, necessary in this day and time. I really do.
No, well, thanks very much. We try our best, but as I always say, especially to our contributors, we can only do so much.
Yep.
And even trying to get people to share the episode that their stories featured in, I can't get people to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, like Dale, yourself, fantastic. We'll share it out. Allison's another fantastic person. Brianna. I've got a core group of people that every time they do the engagement, and I see the same names every time helping me out, and it's absolutely fantastic. But people don't seem to understand. You'll get absolutely swamped. Like, you get no recognition. We'll have to operate in groups and collectives.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean because I don't know if you've noticed that the sort of cliquey aspect with writers or writers groups.
Yes. Yes.
You can be part of this group, but you must exclude all others. And I find that kind of pointless.
Huge thing with me is like with these writers groups. If your work doesn't fit into their set idea of how it should run, the 3-part play, where you have an introduction, you have the precipitating event and all this kind of stuff. And that is a huge thing that I have come across with traditional publishing, is that they have very strict ideas about, one, what will sell and what won't sell, but two is that it has to follow a strict formula. And I don't think per formula. I just tell my stories. And
that's how we got the Hollywood formula of the same crap regurgitated.
Exactly. That's what you get.
You mentioned Stephen King. If I say New York bestseller on the front of a book, I know it's going to be the same. It's 1,000 pages, 800 pages. I know beat for beat. One, you can't really tell one from the other. The characters' names might be different. The land or the setting might be different. For beat, you're going to get the same words, same phrases all throughout those books. The minute it says that New York Times bestseller, another thing I've got a problem with is when I see a book and on the back of it, it's just accolades from critics or people and not the actual story. People are more interested in fact, there's a guy I follow. His name's Eric July, and he says it really well. He says, you write for your customer or you create for your customer, not your peers.
Very good.
It seems to be that a lot of these writers groups are all about impressing their peers and not actually reaching the going public who are not reading anymore.
Right.
And they're the people that we're losing and who are losing out by not reading. I'm not saying reading my works will change your life. Probably tell you how not to do things, but you know what I mean? It's there, read it, laugh at it, get something from it, get inspired for an idea, think, oh, that was crap, I could do that better, and then do better. I don't care. At least if you're reading something, and if you're enjoy it, don't enjoy it, at least you've tried, you've invested in something. And you've exercised your brain, and you've tried to figure out why you don't like. I'm doing tons of movie reviews, and I'm actually finding myself like a different mindset watching something or reading something. That's like, okay, I didn't like this. Why didn't I like it? Yeah. And then I have to justify why I didn't like it. What were the beats? What didn't hit me right? Now, what didn't hit me right, you could love. Does that mean that I slag you off for enjoying it? Or tell you you're a terrible person, or say you should never be on the internet again? No, that's lunacy, and that's the madness that we're in right now.
Yeah,
and we're losing something vital here.
Yeah, it is, and here's the whole thing. I'm talking about the book covers and everything like that. One of my favorite authors, and I'm going to slaughter his name. It's John Ajvida Lindqvist. He's the one that wrote Let the Right One In, which has been made into 2 movies, and now it's a series on TV.
Oh, it's a series as well?
Oh, yeah, on Showtime. On Showtime.
Right.
They actually... Oh, well, I'll do a review for you if you like.
I was going to say, right. I saw the beats in, oh God, what was it? What was your one? Set in the early 20th century. God,
Yep.
I read it. I saw the beats when she climbed in the window. Merrily.
Oh, yeah.
When Merrily climbed in the window, I was like, I know where you got that idea. I just saw it straight away. I knew you got the other inspiration from.
Let me tell you. All right.
But I've read, I've watched both movies. I've watched the original one and Let Me In, the remake. In fact, that's another thing. I want to like Chloe Moretz, the wee girl, the actor, right? There's something about her. I want to like her, but she has just been in stinker after stinker after stinker of movies. But that one she did bloody really well. And she committed herself to the character. She really pulled it out of the bag for that one.
Yeah.
And the original, there's a darkness to the original movie, and it's in German, isn't it? No, Swedish.
It's Swedish.
Yes, in Swedish. Sorry, it's Swedish. I want to get the book, and I want to do bit by bit, just compare the three movies. Now there's a bloody series as well. I'm gonna have to look at it.
Yeah.
God,
well, let me just tell you this.
Thanks for giving me more work.
I'm gonna. Well, that's what I don't want you to get bored. I mean,
oh yeah, that's me because I don't do much. Yeah.
Oh,
love to do that. I'd love to actually sit down, do a full review on and compare the three of the beats. That's definitely a plan.
That'd be great. That'd be great. But it's like Lindqvist. Anything he writes, he's had several films made from his stories, and the best one is yet to come. Handling the Undead. Oh my goodness, I've got to see that film because that book, or that actually is sort of a novella, was just, it creeped me out. But even him, when you get one of his books, it says right there, the next Stephen King, they compare. Yeah, no, he's not Stephen King. He comes from a completely different background and everything from Stephen King.
But that's the media. That's the bland corporate.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like Tolkien. Every fantasy writer is the next Tolkien. It's like, calm down. Or every action movie is the next James Bond. It's like, stop it. Judge it on its own merits.
Bingo.
And let her fall on its own sword, or it'll charge the glory. But stop this. And I think it's this whole thing, what we've been talking about, and the fundamental issue is people don't create anymore. They regurgitate, they rehash, they need something familiar. They're all in the baby pool, and they won't take the few strokes into even the shallow end. And people will spend 6 hours on one of these stupid things.
Yeah.
Watching dopey short videos, but they won't commit an hour to reading a book.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
And it's madness.
It is. And to expand on your observation, I've had many people say, "Oh, well, he got that from Let the Right One In," the Journal of Edwin Hale. Actually,
no, I said you were inspired. I didn't say you stole it. The story has its own flavor, and that's what you're allowed to be inspired. And people just because you see a recognizable beat. But I was just pleased with myself, and now I know that you're a fan. I love seeing people's inspirations, where they get ideas from, because it's just that's what it's all about.
Yeah. In the book, if you read the book, it and that's why everybody says, "Oh, the book is much better than the movie." Well, yes, but in this situation, the author was elbow to elbow with the director, the producer, and that's why they turned out as good as they did.
Well, in the book, if I believe right, the guy who was looking after was a pedo, so you can't
Yeah.
really do it. You know what I mean? You can't have that in the book, or you can't graphically display that in the movie. No, I mean there's still limits to what
No. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you can show in a movie anyway, but you can have it. Back to King again, like the pre-teen orgy didn't happen in it, in either of the things. That's not, you know what I mean? There's always going to be that line drawn. And that's fine, because once you don't draw that line, what do you have to do to get the shock value? Like I said, people become inured. So what do you have to do? Chop people to bits on stage to get a reaction. You know, is that where we're going? So there has to be a kind of barrier. And it's better if your brain fills in the part. The most fun part are the horrors you can't see.
Yes.
Your brain can always fill in something more that can never be displayed to you. Your own horror and imagination will always trump anybody's vision.
The theater of the mind.
Yes.
The theater of the mind. That's the most vivid, most horrifying place.
Angel Without Mercy. I'm an idiot. Sorry, mate. I have these mental blocks. Folks, yeah, check out Angel of Mercy. It's actually it's one of the extracts we performed and really fun. Yeah. Like I said, there is that inspiration, just that brief moment, and if you see it, you'll see it. Just the description of Marilee at a particular scene, but the rest of the story and the interaction between her and her father, etc., is nothing even remotely like these this work. But that's what I'm talking about, getting people to read. Yeah. Getting people to check. You can get inspired, but it doesn't mean you have to regurgitate.
Even Marilee. Even Marilee, she's a vampire. But like I say, where I grew up influenced what kind of vampire she is. For instance, you won't find a southeastern or Eastern European vampire in Marilee, or at least not much of it. There are certain aspects that where I was growing up, they had legends of vampires. They had the loup-garou, which is French for werewolf. They had, like the story I'm writing right now, is about La Lechuza, which is owl witch. They also had their own flavor on what constitutes a vampire. And for instance, big instance, roses. In my Marilee, my vampires, the smell of the rose is highly intoxicating to them, almost to the point of debilitation. And they the point is that they get tangled up in the thorns of the rose bush and held there until the sun comes up. That's not something you'll find in other vampires.
So it's a bit like catnip for vampires in your story.
There's what?
It's a bit like catnip for vampires, but goes to the extreme.
Yeah, it goes, and it's like you the way to really do it nowadays is, yes, you have your tropes. You have your werewolf tropes and your vampire tropes and things like that. But what really snags people is if you do something different with it. You give them a little bit of something that lets them stand apart from the others.
But still remain, and because my complaint is, especially with modern movies, they've melded the vampire, the werewolf, and the zombie.
Yeah.
Into this homogenous generic monster.
Right.
And sometimes they're affected by sunlight, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they change it to full moon, sometimes it's by will. They can't really tell, and they all look the same, and it's horrible. You have those building blocks of what that creature is.
Right.
As long as you have those building blocks, you can tweak a bit, and that's what makes it new and refreshing. You don't have to do much. Do you think are people that caught up? Because that's one thing that made me reticent about creating anything, was I didn't want to be either a plagiarist or seen as just rehashing stuff. And that always put me off for years until I learned, and came to the realization that yes, everything has a common element. It's like cooking. Everything, a carrot's a carrot, an onion's an onion. But what you do with it is what makes your dish different
Very
to
good
everyone else's.
Very
Once I realized that, it just freed me up, mentally, and that mental block stopping me was able to go forward. But do you think there's this? I'm trying to put it in the nicest way possible, but the fact that people just continually regurgitate now, or they're afraid to try something new, where do you think that comes from?
I think
Because they're either trying to completely rewrite the whole book and they end up making a mess, or they're just going over the same old beats. Like there's no in between anymore. It's either one extreme or the other. It's either just go for the same beats, the same story over and over again, or else they're trying to completely reinvent the wheel, and they miss the point of what made like a particular creature, like the vampire ones. I think zombies annoy me the most because they've just become these running, jumping things, and
I think it's fear. I think people are afraid to step outside the confines of a trope because they're going to get criticism. No matter what you do, you're going to get criticized for it. But I think that's, and unfortunately, it's also laziness. People don't want to put forth the effort. Now, for me, it's easy because, like I say, I have this rich background, from where I grew up,
Sorry, that's a running joke. Ghosts are stupid. Every haunted movie, yeah. This has been a long running joke. Dale, you crack me up. Sorry, laziness and some train of thought. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm out here.
Thanks for just derailing the entire conversation there. I wanted you to see why I was bursting out laughing because I didn't want you to think I was laughing at you. It's been a long running thing.
I know it has.
No, people are lazy. Yes, they want the gratification, they want the likes and shares, they want the adulation, but they don't want to actually physically put in the work. You're saying about your rich background, and I don't think you mean monetary. I think you mean environment. Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah. Well, like the story I'm writing now, a work in progress now, is about Lala Chusa, which is the owl witch.
Mm-hmm.
Where I grew up generally in southwestern United States, northern Mexico, the Lala Chusa is completely different, a legend, than the original that came from Spain. When the Spaniards came to this country, they melded their legends with the local Native American legends of owl witch, a shape-shifting creature that could change into an owl or have the aspects of an owl. And so that's what I really find fascinating, is that there are so many ways and so many stories to tell out there. It's just that you really have to just go for it. You don't have to worry about, what will people think,
Oh God, that's
If
I worried what people thought, I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't talk to anybody. You know what I mean? You have to.
I hear you. I tell my stories.
Tell me a troll story.
Tell you what?
A troll story. Have you got a troll story? Yeah, when you've encountered a troll. Online. I always try to get people to tell a troll story because that's another thing. Part of this podcast is to encourage people to do it. And like you said, people are afraid of criticism and they're afraid of getting dogpiled on by trolls, for example. So I always try to have somebody tell me a troll story that okay, this is who obviously not saying their name. Don't give them the grace of naming them. But this is what they said to me. Guess what? I'm still here. I'm still creating. You can survive it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have had, I guess I can't really say trolls, but there have been some, like in the groups that I do belong to, I've had people basically come down on me for like, that just wouldn't happen. You know, the vampire that you created just wouldn't happen. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Well, who's to say that there's one type of vampire? This is my world. I'm inviting you as a reader to come into my world. And in my world, I can do pretty much what I want to do, And if you don't like it, don't read my stuff.
Just move along.
Huh?
Just move
Yeah,
along. I take the other approach because, like I said, I don't care about trolls. But what my thought is, and what I'm trying to do here, is I want more creators. I want more people who are feeling maybe nervous, have never done this before, and are afraid to take that leap. I just want to say, give it a crack.
Give it a go. Give it a go.
And one of the things that might put you off is the thought of encountering a troll.
Yes.
And nearly everyone who I've talked to in this show, including myself, have dealt with one. You don't put your head out there, like you said. You don't step out in the world without somebody wanting to have a go. And just by the fact you're trying is enough to enrage them in their sad little existence that they can't see you succeed. But I just want to hear these stories. I want people to hear these stories, go, yes, have a crack. Yes, you're going to get somebody that's going to have a go at you. But you know what? That's part of it. In fact, wear it like a badge of honor. When you start getting trolls, wear it like a badge of honor. Like, haha, I've got one. I'm making it. Yep, it's like, I have made it. Yes, I've got my first stalker. Yes, tick.
Oh my!
When you look out the bedroom window and you see them staring up from the garden, you're like, yes, I'm really getting somewhere. Look, I've got my first crazy person.
I'm somebody now.
Yay!
Oh yeah. There have
enjoy it, friggin', and you know what I mean. Just enjoy the experience, but don't let anything ever drag you down. I think that's what people are so afraid of, and that's why I don't like these cliquey groups who try to put a hierarchy of. And I always ask this question as well: what do you consider to be an author or a real author?
Yeah,
because that's one that pisses me off no end. It winds me up. You're not a real author because yada yada yada.
You haven't made so much money.
What step do you from? Is there a difference between being a writer and an author?
In my mind, no. But it's like you can write and write anything, but I think you become an author when you take what you write and put it out there for other people to read. You can write all day long and consider yourself a writer.
Yeah, and
but until you actually put it out, until you actually put it out there. Oh, one of the hardest things I ever did was turning my stories, the Journal of Edwin Hale, over to an editor, and because I just knew they were going to slaughter it, that the finished product wouldn't be anything like what the story I was trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like giving up a kid. The stories become like a part of you so much that it's like, oh, I don't want to put you out there. I'm afraid somebody will hurt you. But you just got to do it. You got to take that step, put it out there, and there are people that love it and there are people that hate it. But that's life.
Better than apathy. At least if you're provoking a reaction, and if you're true to yourself, provoke a reaction, you've done something worthwhile. My philosophy is time spent creating is not time wasted.
No.
And if it doesn't make you money or make you a millionaire or get you, likes, it might not happen in your lifetime, but at least by creating something and putting it out there, you don't know, you know what I mean? It could be long after you're gone, it'll be discovered. Or it could just reach one person. And that person might get inspired. You've done your job. If that's all you do is reach one person and that person improves their life, just by getting an idea or inspired to do something, well, what else do you need to do?
Exactly.
As long as you're living a good life for yourself, trying the best you can, what else can anybody ask of you? But I hate this whole thing of people trying to build a hierarchy. And it's usually spitefulness and jealousy. And Reddit. None of them come near this show because they kind of know my attitude. So thankfully, I don't get those type of people. Because you just have to listen to me for 5 minutes. You understand that I'll have no patience for that type of person. So thankfully, they stay away. But I think it's really terrible and nasty and actually puts people down. You're not a real author because you haven't sold 50,000 copies. Well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy yourself? Did you stretch yourself mentally and creatively making it? Did you actually enjoy the process? Did you feel a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah.
Did somebody enjoy your work? What the hell else do you need to do? Yes, if more people do it, enjoy your work, that's even better.
Oh, yeah.
But so what? You've not wasted your life.
One of the best things that ever came out of my writing was that there was a young girl, and she became so enamored with the character Mary Lee that she had always wanted to be an artist, a drawer, whatever. She her dream was to go on and become a graphic artist, and everybody was telling her, there's so much CGI, computer generated stuff now, that a person who is an artist, a physical, take a pen, pencil to paper and make a drawing, just won't go anywhere. And they were trying to send her off in another direction. And she sent me, here, I'll show you something. She fell in love with Mary Lee, and she sent me a picture that she had drawn of her concept of what Mary Lee would look like. And it was so incredible that she actually, it's like she read my mind. This is the picture that I thought of. Anyway, so I asked her, here's a major announcement coming, so stand by.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. She's going to have her portrait of Mary Lee included on the cover of my next book. And it will be, there you go. That's
I knew I had it. That's what I was taking away there.
That's Mary Lee. And she did a fantastic job on that. And she is one of my favorite people now in the whole world. She has a lot of enthusiasm. And that is one person that this story touched. And she can relate to this character in my book. It just touches my heart, So what I'm going to do for her and for all the other people that fell in love with that story is my next work in progress is going to be a prequel to the Journal of Edwin Hale, and it will be told from the point of view of Mary Lee. It will be her life, basically. And here's the cover. I don't know if you can see it, but here's the cover of the book.
Oh,
it's a wanted poster with Mary Lee on it. And that's going to be on the cover of.
Are you going to do it in that same sort of tan Western style, like Wild West? Because that's what that looks like.
Yeah. It's going to be like tell her story. I'm thinking from her viewpoint. Now, I've never been a 15-year-old girl, much to other people's dismay. But
although in 2022 you can, if you decide the next day, you can be one for about 10 minutes and then change.
Yeah. There you go.
So you can be a 15-year-old. In fact, next 10 minutes, be a 15-year-old girl if you want to identify as one. That's the rules these days.
That's it. And so her story touched on, as well as Edwin's, touched on people, maybe just a handful of people. It touched on their on something in them, and that means more to me than all the money in the world. I'll never be able to retire on my stories, but if I can just touch one person and influence them in a positive direction with my stories, I've succeeded.
Yeah, it's like dropping pebbles in the pond. The ripples, you don't know where the ripples are going to go.
Exactly.
And that's why I say we need more creators, not less.
Yes.
It's not time wasted by actually attempting. And do you know what? You'll fail. You'll fall over, you'll fail, you'll pick yourself up again. Funnily enough, my first two novellas were actually drawn in pencil. And Dave, the artist, he went through 3 red pencils. He used to money me, friggin' 3 red pencils to do this. And like, okay, you charging me extra for them? But they're actually hand drawn in pencil and then scanned, obviously, for the book cover. Once again, we've lost tactility. I think a digital age is wonderful. You know what I mean? Like yourself, I grew up pre-internet and saw the internet come in, and I saw the positive changes. The fact we can sit here like this, chatting as if we're like just across the table from each other, that's a wonderful thing. But the negative side is we've forgotten the important things like tactility, hand-eye coordination, concentration, attention span. That's kind of been shunted to the side, but that's always been the way when a new form of communications come in.
Yeah.
But there's a book I want to pick up. I've got it on my reading list. Keep meaning to get it. But every time we've brought in, it happened with the printing press. It happened with radio. It happened with TV. It happened with the internet. And now it's happening with social media. Every time a new form of communication comes in, we as a human race have always went a bit loopy over it.
There you go.
And then we kind of settle down. And then we go loopy again when the next thing comes out.
Yep.
That's just our way. We're still
that's
chimps in suits. You know what I mean? That's just what we are. We're all just animals, just we've got a wee bit more going on in the back there, but we're still the same people. And I think horror, don't know if you agree with me or not. I think horror helps you realize that we're not going to be the apex predator all the time.
Bingo.
We're just another animal part of the food chain, and we can just as easily devolve back into packs of snarling beasts quickly as that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of circumstances. I've been to war, so I know exactly how people the most civilized, upstanding, reasonable person can click like that into a bestial, cruel person who, you just wouldn't have imagined that person would have ever been. It's just we're constantly both evolving and de-evolving, at the same time. It's just a matter of which one has priority.
Influence. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, whichever one wins out.
Yeah, it's a constant battle, and I think when people get complacent
Yeah,
and forget, and this whole older generation and younger generation not talking to each other is a sad thing.
it is. It
And I
is.
hope it changes. And I hope, yeah, come listen to a couple of old farts on the YouTube. Why not? You know what I mean? If you can tolerate it for more than 20 minutes, fair play to you. We're not meaning you any harm. We've been there. we've we've made our mistakes. We've made our triumphs and achievements. We've got to where we are. Being, you know what I mean? You've all had ahead of you, say to young people, but just don't become complacent. Stretch
No.
yourself. Create. Taking selfies isn't creating. You know what I mean?
No.
Don't reduce yourself to just selfies. I saw it actually. There's this horror app I'm part of, and somebody was complaining that they're getting harassed. All they did was post selfies. They don't actually talk, and the post selfie, post selfie, post selfie, and then they're like, I wanted to talk to people about my hobbies, and nobody's talking to me. I'm like, well, you don't actually talk, or you don't put an opinion forward, or you don't formulate an idea for people to join in the discussion. All you do is post selfies. And I'm just thinking, that, what do you expect if you don't actually dig into yourself and maybe hurt a bit to put something out there, even if it's having an opinion about a movie? I tried to discuss, God, what was it? We were talking about the latest Hellraiser one. I haven't seen it because it won't put it out in my country.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and everyone's talking about, they forget that 4 actors have now played Pinhead.
Yeah.
They keep saying it's as if it's only 2. And like, well, what about the other 2? And then I tried to have a discussion about what went wrong. There's a whole documentary about what went wrong with Judgment. No, not Judgment. The other one, Revelations, the weird one with Fat Pinhead. All the problems. Now, I didn't want to say. All I got in response was, yeah, it's still a shit movie. I'm like, I know, but I'm trying to have a discussion about what went wrong, how it went wrong. I'm trying to have a sit down and just have a chat about, yeah, that was terrible, but here's some of the things that happened. What do you think? No,
Bounce idea.
all they went by the title, didn't even watch the documentary, straight away with the opinions. And it's
Yeah.
just one, this was shit. And if you didn't think it was shit, you're a horrible person. I'm like, dude, where's the actual art of having a conversation these days?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the delving deeper into the hows and whys? That's what makes fandom. That's what makes ideas flourish. That's where you learn how not to do things. And the
Yeah.
reason I'm talking about this is just obviously, are you okay for time, by the way? Because we've been going for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it is getting the running a little long. Yeah.
Are you okay? I'm okay
Yeah.
to keep going if you are.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I can sit
Yeah,
here
as
all
long as
day.
you're good for time. Sorry, I know I always say to people about an hour, but if the conversation goes on, it goes on. Just if you're like going, God, is he ever going to shut up or let me go? Don't be afraid to say.
No, I'm fine. I'm
Right.
fine.
You have
I'm enjoying it.
you've delved into filmmaking now yourself, and that's what I was going to bring up, the crematorium attendance assistant. Obviously saw the trailer. No idea what the movie's about. It's very subtle trailer, not giving very much away. What made you make that step between writing and filmmaking? Did you always want to be a filmmaker, or was it just the next step?
Oh, let me put it this way. My Ring camera is wanting to interfere with my. Let me get. I got a Ring camera on my front door, and it's not wanting to let me. I'll just talk without a picture. How about that? As long as you can hear me.
You're still showing. You're still
okay.
You're still showing camera. You're still showing.
Okay. What made me want to go into film was my fans.
What made you start? Was it just the logical progression to tell a story in a new medium, or was it something you always wanted to do?
I've always watched a movie, and I've been one of those kinds of people that say, oh, I could have done that so much better. Or I'm always the guy that, for instance, in there was a movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but in the movie they had a teapot, and I know it's minutia that gets me every time. They say, oh, the teapot is going off, it's making its noise, it's whistling noise, but then they show the teapot. There's no steam coming out of it. There's no flame underneath it. It's like,
no physicality. Peter
yeah,
Weller.
yeah, it's the real world.
You familiar? Yep. Are you familiar with Peter Weller, the actor that played RoboCop?
Yeah. Yeah.
He said exactly the same thing. He was talking about Training Day with Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington. And he was talking about how Denzel Washington was driving in the car like this. And it was a full, 3-minute monologue of him driving like that, not even looking forward. Because obviously the car is in the back of a trailer and they're driving, so they're not actually driving. He said about it's those details that can take you out of a movie.
Yes, it drives me nuts. But some friends of mine who also liked the story, they were creatives. They have a little local theatrical group, and they wanted to know if they could use a scene out of one of my stories in there to make a theatrical play. Mm-hmm. And I was thrilled, tickled beyond belief, and anyway, they did a really fantastic job. The person that wrote the script kept really very close. It was intended to be a one room because of time constraints and stuff like that. It was a one room show. They didn't have a lot of extra scenery. It all concentrated on one room, and it was between the sheriff and the doctor at the end of the Journal of Edwin Hale. And they filmed it and all that kind of thing. And I just thought it was just wonderful, and immediately, my mind starts thinking, well, that would really make, that really inspired me. Well, then the pandemic came along and nobody was able to get together in the same room, so we came up with the concept for a radio play. And that radio play became Mystery, Love, and Murder. Mm-hmm. And that was played at the Festival de la Bête Noire in Montreal, Canada, which is a horror genre, where they have plays, and it was a big hit. Everybody, it was a radio play, so there was no visual, Yeah. It was a radio play.
I'll tell you a wee story when you finished, because it's how I started out in all this jazz.
And then there was I have some friends in Australia that really liked one of my stories, The Crematorium Attendant's Tale. And they had a group of film students, from the local university, wanted to see if they could adapt that story to a short film. And that's where the teaser came from. And the scriptwriter, Eden Hanna, she knocked it out of the ballpark. It was absolutely magnificent, the story she came up with. And because the original story was only 927 words, it was basically flash fiction, mm-hmm. And we're still working on that. We're still trying to get The problem now is that in order to go to, it's hard, it's impossible to just jump into this business with a feature film. It's almost impossible.
Oh no, you're not gonna.
No, you're not going to find the producers to do that, the money to do that. So we were going to do a one-room film where it's in the basement of the manor house. And it's hard to cut down to fit. When you're going to a festival, you don't go into a festival with a 30-minute film. It's a 10-minute film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from opening to closing credits, no more than 10 minutes. And it just amazed me how difficult it is to tell a story and really get the heart of the story in that into 10 minutes. So that's where we're at now. But yeah, I've like I say, I've watched films and I've always said I could do better than that, and so that's where we're headed right now. Thank you so much for having Acrostar. Those people with
it came and Brian and Steve.
They were, yeah.
Oh, we went on for 2 hours. We were flipping. We could have went on all night. They were.
No, but it was wonderful. And that film, It Came From Beyond.
Yeah, have you seen it?
It brings back so many memories. I really am going to really thoroughly enjoy that film because, like I say, I grew up in the 50s with all those B-type movies, the 50-Foot Woman, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and Them, and all that kind of stuff.
Did you see us reacting to the full trailer?
Huh?
They've actually put out the full trailer for it now. Did you see us reacting to it?
Yeah.
And they're doing a pew, and somebody just turns into a skeleton. I buckled. I just like, I'm good. That's it. I'm watching this movie. So much cheesy goodness. I can't wait to review it. I can't wait to actually get it all, get it watched when it finally comes out, and review it, and give my thoughts on it, because it just seems like it's just going to be a lot of cheesy fun.
It is.
And they're, for example, a few guys, they're not taking themselves seriously. They're taking their art seriously, but they're not pretentious.
Yeah, exactly.
Just use more script. They're not pretentious. So when you don't have that, and they actually are committed to the art. And in the horror community, we're very forgiving. We watch a lot of bad movies, and a lot of the reasons just because of budget constraints. Only a limited window of time. Only so much, and it's usually friends. Another director I talked to, Jason, he was just crowdfunding because what he wanted to do was pay for his cast's hotel rooms and not have them pay themselves. So you've got these people, and they will pay for their own hotel rooms. They'll travel. They'll put their own skin in the game just to make this thing happen.
Yes.
Those people, anyone that does that, and actually put blood, sweat, and tears into something, I want to promote. I want to, my tiny channel, at least if you have a video, you're giving a conversation, and this is about going to let people see you, talk to you, know what you're about. At least it's a little bit to help.
Yes.
And if I could do my bit to help people get out there, that's what I want to do.
Go for it. Yeah. That inspired me. I was starting to get a little, that came across your podcast. It came across at just the right time in my life, because I was starting to say, oh, well, between the pandemic and everything else, much less trying to be a producer sitting in the United States and having to coordinate all this stuff in Australia. It was just becoming overwhelming. And but then when I saw those fine folks and what they were accomplishing, I said, I haven't got an excuse.
Have you seen Wormwood, Road of the Dead?
No, I haven't.
Right. Australians have carte blanche to make zombie movies. It has to be the best zombie movie I've ever watched. And I mean, it is daft. It's cheesy.
Put that on my list. Wormwood.
Right.
Huh?
What it is, okay, it's a zombie apocalypse in Australia, right? However, What they've discovered is that zombies can produce fuel. So they
What?
excrete a gas that's actually fuel. So people are busy. It's like Mad Max, right? People are running around trucks with zombies attached to them with hoses because, you know what I mean? If they're driving a truck, they need 6 zombies to
I
power it.
love it. I love it.
And then you've got a flipping tanker truck with a flipping lab inside it because there's a mad scientist trying to take over the world and get it happen. Yeah, Wormwood World of the Dead. It's my favorite zombie movie of all time, next to Shaun of the Dead. Just the ridiculousness of
I've
it.
seen Shaun of the Dead. Yeah.
Well, it's that sort of level of goofiness.
Yeah.
But obviously, Australians take it to another level. They've got a comedy that I just love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But speaking of Aussie zombie films, years ago they came out with a short film, Cargo, won all kinds of awards, and I watched that thing, and it was not a comedy, not by any means, but it was so. It just reached into you, the human side of the zombie apocalypse, so to speak, and I just fell in love with that film. It was a short film. A lot of people did. But then when they went to make it into a feature film, not so
was
much.
that the one with the baby?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's his face who played
I know. I have his name.
Baggins?
Yeah. It's right at the tip of my...
His wife got killed. He got bitten by the zombie. He's got the baby. He has to get the baby to safety before he turns. Is that the...
Right.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yes.
Magnificent short film. But the feature film was like, I would put it at a...
He's a... God, who do you call him? He's a bloody wooden plank. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same. Martin Freeman.
There you go. There you
go. He's a wooden plank.
Yeah.
He just plays the one character, which is himself, in every movie he does. It's so disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. And
coaches are all being very nice tonight.
Huh?
I'm gonna have a big head. Stop! You're paying me too many bloody compliments. Flip's sake, Dale. Come on. I'm just a gobshite with a camera and a microphone.
Well up.
My head's going to be a size we used to. Behave.
Well, we do appreciate you, man. We do, all of us out here in the nether regions of reality, appreciate what you do, man.
Okay, well, it's a mutually beneficial. You know what I mean? You've helped me make content. You've helped me do something I enjoy doing. Even though I apologize now, I have butchered a lot of pronunciations with your work, and that was one of the questions, but you've already answered it about the locations you choose, and it's all very localized, and now you've described the area. I can now understand the sort of places. That's why Cameron's doing your latest story, so I don't mess it up anymore, because I just mispronunciate all the time, especially when I think I tried a Cajun accent for a brief moment and I went, oh my god, I'm awful. I'm just like, oh god, he's gonna hate me. He's gonna listen to this and he's gonna be like, you're a
Cajuns have their own level of language. You can't even get two Cajuns in the same room that understand each other. So don't worry.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with having an accent and the struggles. And I just, I had to go at it, and I'm just like, I think it took about 6 takes of a particular line where you had, it wasn't Lorelei, it was, or was it? Was it Lorelei where you had this really strong Cajun accent? No, it was, it was a Marley story. One of the characters had a really strong Cajun accent.
Yes.
That took me about 6 takes just to get that one line of dialogue. I was beating my head off the desk going, oh my god, this is terrible. Just trying to take the Belfast out of it.
Don't worry about it. But speaking of different languages and world, the crematorium attendant's tale,
Mm-hmm.
the characters and the place is in Louisiana, right? And
But you're having it made in Australia?
huh?
But you're having it made in Australia?
Yeah. That's
another.
In other words, instead of saying the character saying pass the torch, or give me the torch, an American wouldn't say give me the torch. He'd say give me the flashlight.
Yeah, flashlight. Yeah.
Hey, to her credit, the girl that plays Claret in there, the other main character besides the crematorium attendants, she has done magnificent. She's got a coach, an acting coach that has actually coached her into how to speak Louisiana, American English dialect. Yeah.
You know what? We should do another stream and get these guys on to talk about this movie when you get further down the line.
Okay.
Yes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We should organize another stream, get you guys all on and talk about the movie and the process behind it and just have a good old riffing session.
Oh, it was, it's hard. It sounds like a fantastic plan. We'll pencil that in.
Here, I'll tell you, you'll start off and you'll submit a few times and then I'll just hook you in. And I'm like, here, you can turn up for this, you can turn up for that. And next thing you know, you'll be living here like me, just doing streams all the time. And getting involved and stuff, because we're going to review Let the Right One In. We're definitely doing that. And actually, who do you call him? Bove. He keeps changing his name. Martin Bove. No. Gary, one of our authors, he likes that story as well, and I sort of put it to him once I finally get around to reading the book, and refresh myself. We'll do that. So maybe I'll have you both on. William, he keeps changing his name. He goes by William, and then he calls himself something else, and he confuses me.
Kind of like me.
See, when you do, when you do bloody Gene Baker, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, what the hell?
Yeah, that's my pseudonym. That's what keeps the psychotic fans away,
But you use both for the same thing, and I'm like, okay, right, who we're going by today? And it's like,
yeah,
I can confuse myself quite easily. Thanks very much. Without help. But yeah, we'll get you and William on. Andy, yeah, he goes by Andy, but William, he types something.
That'd be great. I'd look forward to that.
The three of us will get together and we'll do Let the Right One In if he's up for it. Get the guys that are making the crematorium attendance. God, that is a mouthful.
Yeah,
did you deliberately make that title just to like?
We just say TCAT. We just say TCAT. TCAT. TCAT.
Yeah, but some of us have to try and promote this stuff for you and get the audience. And when I'm going,
that's kind of like Anna Lily Amarpour when she. Absolutely magnificent vampire movie. A girl walks home alone at night.
That's always
a mouthful of a title. That's a mouthful of a title. Yeah, but I tell you, she knocked it out of the ballpark with that. That is still, besides Let the Right One In, that's my all-time second favorite vampire film, right there. And it's weird, but all my favorite films, or at least the vast majority of them, are quote unquote foreign films. Americans have lost it as far as being able to produce a halfway decent horror film.
It's quite tragic.
It is tragic. We started this thing. And we have Let the Right One In. We have A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. We have When Animals Dream. When Animals Dream is another one. It's Danish.
One. Right.
It's Danish. It is about a young girl coming of age in Denmark, and she starts noticing changes about herself that, are not normal. for a 18-year-old girl. And she finally comes to, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but she comes to realize.
Yeah, please, because I'll want to check it out. I go back over it. See, every time somebody references something, I go back over these videos and I'm like, oh, yeah, that is. And it goes on the list.
Yep.
And then it's,
Oh,
that's why I have no money.
It's
That's why I'm
fantastic.
broke all the bloody time.
Yeah. Anyway, she finds out about herself that she's inherited a condition, let me put it that way, that is extremely disturbing. And I don't know how you feel about, subtitles on films and stuff like that.
I hate dubbing. I've talked about this in reviews. I'd rather people spoke in their own language because you get the feeling behind it, the physicality, because the person's in the zone at the moment. Exactly. I'd rather watch a subtitled movie than dubbing. I've done quite a few. South Korea knocks it out of the park. They are the masters of horror at the moment.
Yes, they are. They've doing some.
Taiwan is trying, but they're not getting there. They have too many hits and misses.
I think they've got that whole China thing sitting on top of their shoulders, so they're kind of like under that kind of gun. Yeah,
but just their movies are either hitting. Like The Sadness came from Taiwan, but then I watched another one that was horrendous. Sadness was brilliant, but then another one. But when they dub movies, everyone sounds like they're from South California, and especially the kids, right? What was that one? The Blacksmith and the Devil, right? I watched that. That's a flipping. That's an Eastern European movie. Yeah, it's actually a brilliant movie. But it's dubbed over with English, and the kids are all talking like it's high school teen drama, and I'm just like going, and it's set in medieval Europe.
Yeah.
They're all speaking with that monotone, and I'm like, oh my god, no, give me subtitles any day.
The thing is, though, is that
the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Oh, yes.
Right? When you watch that in the original Swedish with subtitles, you're in there, right? But when it's dubbed over with English, you're just like, oh, no. It loses something.
It does. Let me tell you an experience along those lines. My daughter-in-law is from Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought she'd get a big kick out of watching Let the Right One In with me, And I had to shut it off because it was like, that's not what she says. That's not what he says. That's not what he meant. Oh, no.
Oh, was she watching the subtitles?
Yeah. She was saying, he didn't say that. That's not what he said. They're getting it all wrong.
See if you want to laugh, right?
Yeah.
Put the captions on with one of my videos and watch YouTube butcher everything I say.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I followed. I'm just like, what the hell are you? That's not even remotely what I said. I tried to use. I'm trying to. There's an old series. I started out in radio plays. Sorry, that was after you talked about that. My original podcast was actually based on radio plays, and I had voice actors, and it was absolutely pain in the arse. And in 7 years, we only got 26 episodes out. That's how bad it was. Because people are late. Somebody doesn't. They're not even in the same room. I don't want to act with that person. Me, and all this shit, and just
Oh yeah.
And you're bringing more and more people in because freaking people won't.
You have these prima donnas.
Yeah, and if somebody has a bit of talent, all of a sudden they think they're fucking it. And you're like, come on. That's why it's better just narrating. It's just expediency.
Yeah.
And not having to deal with the more working parts you have, the more it breaks down. But what was going with this? Yeah, radio plays and and acting. It's a lot of fun, and just watching the story come to life. But yeah, with the dubbing, when somebody's not actually involved in it, I've actually forgot what I was going to say there. So that's why I'm rambling now because I'm like I just lost my train of thought.
Well, here's the thing about another thing I like about foreign movies, and I'll use it once again. Let the Right One In. The original Swedish version.
Mm-hmm.
The actors in that were so good.
Oh yeah.
If you turn the sound off. Turn off the dubbing, whatever.
No, I watch it in Swedish. I don't watch it in English dubbed.
Yeah, and
What's
it's like they were so good about projecting the story that you didn't need any of that. That is a credit to the ability of those actors to actually get into that character and to be able to tell a story. You know, it's like the old time silent movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
that's what's going. Yes, I'm dictating. I've done a whole series where I'm talking about creativity, and I tried to put it into one of those dictating software, and I just butchered it. So I'm having to sit in like earphones in, type, and it's a lot of interviews I've done over the past. You know, I was all about creativity. That is about 5 years ago, and I don't want to lose it. You know what I mean? Because I deleted the channel, it's all gone. But yeah. The subtitles never pick up what the actual words are.
No. And another thing is that with my arthritis in my hands, that's another reason I haven't really done anything of any length in several years now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I've tried using voice recognition programs, and they inevitably let me down. I wish they would create a program that was much more AI, you know, more artificially intelligent.
Is Dragon Speak still a thing?
It is.
Because you had to actually read out to the software, so it picked up your
that you have to train it.
You have to train it. Yeah, you had to read. You basically got a book with it, and you had to actually train it to recognize your voice. And I'm talking about back in the 90s, so it was really ropey then.
It's better now. It's better now, but I mean, it's like, no, I didn't say truck. No, I didn't say duck. I didn't. That's not what I was.
Oh God! See when I transfer on Facebook.
Yeah,
it's like it has a hissy fit. It's like you're not saying. I'm like, fuck off. That's what fucking said. Fuck, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's why we have multiple platforms as well, because although it started off because of the political nonsense, it's leached into everything, and I've seen it in horror. They're becoming more and more restrictive. And horror, you're talking about serial killers, murderers, and even me. As you know, if somebody has a published piece of work, I plug it. I put it on the bookshelf, you know, the store, because Facebook thinks everything's a business. They don't have a hobby section anymore because everything has to be run like a business. So I put everyone's books on the shop, but it points to their book, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm sitting here with hundreds of copies of books and selling them. It just points. It's just a mechanism. But the amount of time I've got in trouble with Facebook over titles of books and their covers and the descriptions. Oh, that's too much for the general public. Oh, that's frightening. I'm like, piss off. That's not even the worst. And it's always the most innocuous one that they pick on. I'm like,
yes,
calm down. And YouTube's bad. Thankfully, they don't understand me, so I can get away with saying loads of shit that other people get hammered for. But the bots can't understand me, so I'm good. I can say whatever I want. They haven't figured out East Belfast yet, so long may that continue.
I hear you.
But yeah, they're restricting words you say. They don't like swearing. They don't like using terms, and it makes no sense. There's no context. No. The language being used. It's just they're looking for the alt-right Nazi hiding behind every bush. It's the latest. This is Satanic Panic 2.0.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, the same herd mania is just looking for the next enemy, and it's burning the witch again. You know, it's just human nature. It's been repeated so many times. This is just the latest iteration of it, and it'll happen again. You know what I mean? We'll get through this period. We'll go quiet for a while, and then it'll happen again with something else. Exactly. I think we as horror, we understand that, so we don't. There's a few idiots out there that are just full on board with doing all that crap, but anyone with a thinking brain.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people. Think.
I got put in Facebook jail as well for saying plastic patties because somebody friggin' reported me.
I have not been put in Facebook jail yet.
I've got you got to get right. You got to get your if you're going to be a creator, okay. Here's your badges of honor, right? You got to get your first troll, right? And you got to be put in Facebook jail. That's just the way it is. You got to do that. That way you know you're making it.
There you go.
What else do you think we should add to the list? We should have a list of this stuff, and I think maybe tomorrow's our 2nd-year anniversary stream. We're going to be doing that, and anybody that's coming on is coming on. Yeah, did I not see in the group? I posted. I want anybody. We're doing it on our stream tomorrow night, and anyone that wants to jump on and say hi, more than welcome. I'll put the link in our.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing I took this weekend off.
More than welcome. But we've got to talk about the badges of honor you have to have as a creator.
I'll tell you what.
Get your troll. Get in Facebook jail. Stalker, yes, when you've got that stalker who's following you around all over the place, you got to have that one. Yeah, that's another one. That's next level. Yeah, and we'll come up with a thing.
There you go.
Get people to tell the stories. Just have a bit of fun. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get people involved to have a bit of fun.
That's it.
And everyone thinks coming on this show or doing interviews all about, okay, how did you become an author? What is your method for writing? What is your next published work? Robot. It's like, I don't want to do that. That'll bore me.
There you go.
You know what I mean? It's about having a laugh, get on here. Once you get comfortable doing it, you surprise yourself where you go next. Yeah. Tell the rest of the people, like we have had, we're just about to hit 100 stories.
Yes.
Dale's our 93rd one. I'm working on Justine. I hate editing. I'm great. I'll record one night, no problem. But when I record, I'll do like 10 takes of a certain line because it's, if I fluff up. And then when I have to go back and edit, that takes me about 3 days. But when I'm bringing the story to life, putting in the special effects and doing all that kind of stuff, that takes me about 2 hours. That's, that's done and crack goes out. It's the editing bit absolutely kills me. And when I'm recording, I have my voice up here. This is all brought across. So every little breath goes through as well. So I have to cut all that stuff out. And that's what takes me so long recording because it's all those stupid little bits that nobody wants to hear.
Well, that's what we did with the Mystery, Love, and Murder. Mm-hmm. It was the pandemic. We couldn't get together in one room. So what we did was we set up each individual in their home. They would record their bit, and then we would. And one of the places we set up a recording was in their master bedroom closet because the acoustics were so good in there. And I hear you, man. I hear you.
God, there's people send me in recordings on their phones. I know you would get this. Like, what the hell am I meant to do with that? And that's where I learned about editing and equalizing and volume. You know what I mean? I remember my first year doing this is back in 2012. Mm-hmm. When I first started doing this, you got people, say you have 5 people in a performance. You get 5 different audio qualities. And then you get the professional who, decides to help out. And their stuff is so clipped and perfect. And this one guy, Michael, he would actually record in a cupboard. So he had his separate, mic in a cupboard. Believe it or not, me moving my microphone from here, I used to have it going over the stand. It would pick up everything. But me just repositioning the mic to here, my recording is so much better. And it's these silly. And once I discover something, I like to share it out because it's like, here, I figured this out. This is my this is the problem I was having. Do you hear the difference? And if it helps someone else, cool. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Sharing, making everybody better, not being elitist.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to foster here with this podcast and all you guys coming on is don't be an elitist twat. Just give a wee bit of your time and you'll be surprised. It mightn't happen immediately, but what comes back to you? Making a connection, somebody being interested in your work, getting that extra fan who shares your own stories on your page 10 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's nothing to people. Luckily enough, of people like yourself and Dale and Alison and all, you know,
William.
people have been involved throughout the 2 years of doing this here, has made this a worthwhile experience, and I'm grateful to you all. You have really helped this thing come to life from nothing.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Justine, she was like one of my first contributors when nobody knew what I was doing. I was just this random dude. Here, I've got an idea for a podcast. Do you just want to get involved?
Yeah.
Oh God, see the trolls of how much are you paying? Why aren't you paying your artist? You're a leech. Like, duh, what? You're stealing people's work. Huh?
No.
Do you know what I mean? But you get those people and they're mental, they're proper just bitter and twisted, and they can't see anybody else do anything.
Yeah.
They have to tear it down.
Yeah.
So the only way we can combat that is to get together, let people see who we are, and people either gel with it or they won't. Have a laugh. God's sake, I can't stress that enough. It's so important to actually have a laugh and remember how to laugh and joke again, because people seem to have forgotten.
Yeah, they have.
And they revel in the darkness.
Seriously.
Final question before sort of going over to, because we could be here all night.
I know.
I'll wrap this up with a final sort of question.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed from talking to a lot of you guys is there's quite a few authors seem to feel like they have to apologize for being a horror author or for enjoying the horror genre. What do you say to those sort of people that I always say, don't apologize for anything, be who you are and embrace it. What do you say to people that feel like they have to apologize for loving this kind of genre and embracing the darkness, so to speak?
I've just like, I've actually had an experience where someone was saying, how can you call yourself a Christian and write horror? Write about demons and stuff like that. Because that's not who you are. You are, don't apologize. Because you are what you are. You are what your life experiences and your what you were made to be. Horror is, the way I look at it, is I'm trying to help society. By pointing up, hey, yeah, this guy, this evil person over here, yeah, they're nasty, they're disgusting. Yeah, the family is the worst. Yeah. Is that you've got to just understand that it's not the person themselves, the character themselves, it's what they represent. People don't want to delve into, and we touched on this earlier, people don't want to delve into the skeleton of the story. They just, very superficial,
just surface level, nothing more.
That's it, and they don't want to realize that. And I think that people are really afraid of seeing themselves and realizing, oh, yeah, that's me.
There's a bit of me in there, or there's a lot of me in there.
Exactly. And like, what is worst evil? What is the worst evil? Is it the creature that had absolutely no choice in what they've become, that either genetically or magically, or they were cursed, and they go out, and the only way they can, the way they behave as a monster is totally different from them? Or is it this human being that murders, tortures, and steps on people to get more wealth and power, which is a greater evil, and that's the kind of thing that I try to do. Is I try to get people to think, and it's horrible.
Yep.
It's a terrible
The
thing to
worst
try and
monster
do.
is human.
Oh yeah, I agree with you and with Dell.
Yep.
Like I say, I see it
human.
I see it in my ER every single day, and especially on the full moon. Any doctor, any police officer will tell you that the stuffing hits the fan on a full moon. The crazies come out of the dark. And I've had to deplete my blood supply, just trying to keep the person alive long enough for their relatives to come and hold their hands one last time. Because some jealous boyfriend decided that if he couldn't have her, nobody else would. You know what I mean? Or nobody else would want her. So that's the monster. That's the monster. And no, don't apologize for that. You are actually doing a service. If you get out there, put yourself out there, put yourself into your work, and then take that work, and you're a hero. You are somebody that is maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day your greatness, your contribution to society will be recognized.
And that's all anybody can strive for.
That's all.
It's just to make a worthwhile life. I think that'll be a good positive note. Try and lead a worthwhile life. Creativity is not wasted time.
No.
But it doesn't always translate into glory and money and fame. In fact,
that's what you're in here for.
Fame's maybe the last thing you want if you're creative, because that distorts what you have. But everyone just get out and do it. There's an alternative to the grind. The stuff is just chundered out. And these guys are right here. Support them. Thanks to Eugene, likes to Dale in the chat. Check out their channels. Make sure you support their work. That's all you can do. Just even something simple like share a post. Click on the thing. If you can't purchase yourself, that's all you have to do. Just show your appreciation. Leave a comment. Simple things.
Yep.
And that's how we keep the thing balanced.
That's it.
And get more ideas out there. But Eugene, thank you very much. This has been an absolute blast, and I could go on with you for hours yet. Dale, thank you for being in the chat. Always great. Hopefully we can convince more people even to join in the chat. I'm trying to explain how YouTube works in this whole thing. If you're not familiar with streaming, it's an immersive experience. We all get involved in different ways. Get involved. Come join in. We're all having a laugh. That's what we're here for. But as usual, keep up to date with the channel. Do the clicky, commenty things, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep it creepy and keep it horrific.
All right. Take care. Y'all be good.